Kia ora class. Today we're going to be talking about the muscular system, specifically the skeletal muscles. Our learning intention for today is that we will describe the basic function of skeletal muscles and identify the major muscles related to performance and physical activity. Now I want to start by introducing you to someone. This is Natalia Kuznetsova, and she is a Russian powerlifter. This photo is taken from her Instagram. This leads me to the first point I want to talk about today, is that in terms of when we look at people's musculature, we can look at them and we tend to make judgments, but what's actually happening under the surface is interesting because her muscles, the muscles she has and where they are and what they do, are exactly the same as everyone else. So it's exactly the same as you or I. The names of the muscles, the positions of the muscles, and what they do are exactly the same between you and her. The major difference being is that she's worked really hard to increase the size of her muscles, and I imagine also has a relatively low body fat percentage to make those muscles seem even more pronounced. But in terms of the muscular system, she has the exact same system as you do. Now the skeletal muscles. The skeletal muscles hold together the bones and joints of the skeleton. They are placed over the joints of the body to allow them to function, that is, to create movement. You really need to understand that muscles don't push. They don't push on bones, they only pull on them. They only tug on those bones that exist either side of a joint. That means that muscles have to work in pairs to create opposite movements. If one muscle opens a joint, it can't then push to close that again. It needs another muscle on the other side to pull in the opposite direction and to close it again. Or to say, move your arm outwards, one muscle would pull, then another muscle would contract and pull to create the opposite movement, to pull your arm back in. Some of the names that we're going to use for muscles actually describe a group of muscles that work together in a similar way, performing a similar function, but you can be confident that the names that I'm using for this video are the same that you can use in your assessment, even though they may not necessarily be 100% anatomically correct. Looking at the major muscles now, starting with the anterior view, that is the front view, looking at the front of something. Note that this diagram shows the anatomical position, the position we use when describing how the body is made up. So this position involves standing upright, facing forward, with arms pointing down to the sides and the thumbs pointing out. We're going to go through the muscles one by one. On the top of the shoulder here is the deltoid. On the front of the chest is the pectoral group, or the major muscle there is the pectoralis major, but there's some smaller muscles underneath as well. On the front of the arm is the bicep, and on the front of the torso, or your stomach, is the abdominals muscle group. On the front of your thigh, there are two groups of muscles you need to be aware of. One is the hip flexors, and the other is the quadriceps group. Lastly, on the shin, we have the tibialis anterior muscle. Looking at the posterior view now, that is looking at the back. This is still the anatomical position, just flipped around. Up here on the top of our back, you can see we have the trapezius muscles. There is one on each side, and it runs a little bit down your spine on your back. You can see I've also labeled the deltoid here to show you that it starts at the front, has muscle fibers that go all the way around, well, to the back as well. On the back of the arm is the triceps muscle. And your lower back is called your latissimus dorsi. You can see your butt muscles are called your gluteals muscle group, and the back of your thighs are called your hamstrings. Now down in your calf muscle there, that muscle is called the gastrocnemius. In summary, today we have described the basic function of the skeletal muscles, and we've identified the major muscles related to physical activity